Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not you can deny your employees sick leave. So let's get started. If you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create the business of your dreams. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to helping you. Keep in mind that we go live every Monday through Friday, except for holidays. Don't forget to hit subscribe and that bell icon to be reminded of when we go live. And I'm here to help you answer questions about your legal needs for your business, as well as I also have a podcast that helps you with leadership, marketing, other different ways of helping build your business. So I'm looking forward to getting to know each one of you. Please feel free to leave comments. I'd love to have you show up live to ask questions live. And just to give you context when it comes to sick pay, there is paid and unpaid. There are state and local specific laws. So you definitely want to look these up and or have counsel look these up and make sure you're complying with them. So all employers, regardless of size, are required to provide sick leave. So you paid sick leave. Now, obviously, there's a difference between paid and unpaid, so keep that in mind. That it's important that you know that it's required in California to pay all of sick leave, or all people, regardless of status, should have paid sick leave. Now, there are some exceptions to how you do it, so we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of that. But I just want you to be aware that yes, you are required to, but there are exceptions and things that you don't have to comply with. Number one, the way it works is it should be 1 hour per 30 hours worked or 1 1/3 hour per 40 hours worked. So it works out to be the exact same way. So basically 1 hour and 15 minutes if they work a 40-hour week, obviously less if they work less. So that's the way that it breaks down. And you can limit your employees to only a maximum of 24 hours or 3 sick days per year. That's your minimum, okay? You can't limit it past that. You can have rollover hours. You can push those to other, like next year. You do not have to pay it out if upon termination. You can opt to pay it out. That's the caveat there. You can choose. These are always, and you want to keep this in mind, is that these are always the minimums. You can always do more and or better, but you have to apply that more or better across, like it has to be consistent across the type of employees that you have. You can't apply to one that you don't apply to another. You can change the rules, but there has to be notice and written consent of the parties. You also want to make sure that nothing in what you write can be misconstrued as any type of contract. So you also want to make sure that in any situation that you're putting at will, especially when it's any type of sick pay situation, so that they understand that it is at will, and that you're not going to pay it out if it doesn't apply or they don't last past whatever period of time. Instead of doing the accrual method that we just discussed, you can also credit the hours at the beginning of the period. So if they start on January 1st, and so their next end date would be December 31st, then you could say you have 24 hours from the beginning to use or however they want to do it. You don't have to do it at the accrual method. You just have to make sure you're giving them the correct amount of the 24 hours per year. So that's just something to keep in mind and you could do it fiscally, you could do it there annually. So if they start in June, they have 24 hours from June 1st until May 30th. Okay, so that's another way you can do it. You can do it. There's lots of ways you can do it as long as you're adhering to that 24-hour rule that you're required to do. Now, again, it always comes back to you can always do more. You just can't do less. We're going to talk about why you should do more as opposed to trying to do the very, very minimum, and we'll talk about that. The other thing that you must do is you must keep records of the amount of time that is accrued and or used, and it must be provided to the employee regularly, preferably on their pay stub or some other written statement that gives them that. And you should, again, it should be regularly. So once a month, once a paycheck, it should be regular. Okay. So they understand that they have this sick time that they can use that doesn't require any type of action on their part to know about it. It can be upon request after as long as you're complying with it otherwise. So say they forget their paycheck stub or they lose it, they shred it, whatever, fill in the blank. You can apply that paycheck. You can apply that on demand as well. So the last final thing is you may not deny employees paid sick pay. And you can't hold it against them later. You can't use it in their review that they used their sick pay. It has to be a non-factor. You cannot make it something that, you called out 3 times, therefore we're using it against you. A lot of employers do. They're not supposed to, and that can subject you to a lawsuit. Okay. That is a big issue with that. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind, if you're going to try to increase loyalty among your potential employees, giving the very minimum is theoretically good for you, but terrible for the employee. And they're going to feel that. They're going to feel that you're just trying to get by with the bare minimum. My advocate is always for do what you would want to have them do in that case. Give them, reasonable amounts of sick time. What it is for your industry, for your area, I'm not going to judge that. I'm not going to say what you should do. Complying with the law is your bare minimum. But I would advocate that you do more than the bare minimum because, and here's why. If you want your employees to do more than the bare minimum, if you want them to be rock star employees, then you've got to provide them with rock star benefits. And that's one of the ways that you can do that is by providing more than the bare minimum on the thing. If you're expecting just them to get by and do their minimum job, the old adage, well, that's not my job, is so annoying. And any employee or employer knows that that's annoying. Those aren't the employees that you want to keep, right? You want to keep the good employees. But by doing that, you need to provide the benefits that will keep those good employees. So even though the minimums are available to you to make sure that you're complying with the law, make sure that you're doing what is better for your company, better for your client, or better for your customer. And most importantly, best for your employee. Because here's the benefit of that. If you have happy employees because they can take care of themselves and their family, that's really what sick pay is all about, taking care of themselves or their family without repercussion, without hurting, without it making a bigger deal than it needs to be. Guess what? They're going to come to work, they're going to do their job, and they're going to do it a lot better than somebody that feels stressed out, somebody that doesn't have sick pay, that can't take time off when they need to. Just put yourself in their shoes. The happier you make them, the better they will perform. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be a pushover and do things that you don't want to do or shouldn't do. But, if you can help them to perform optimally, then that is going to give you the benefit that you need of having the best workforce possible. And they're going to work harder for that. It just makes sense. If they've got an employer that's taking care of them, taking care of their needs and their wants, then they're going to take care of your needs and your wants from an employer perspective. So keep these in mind, that the legal answer is do this. Okay, these are your minimums. Take care of your minimums. But by doing extra, as I've said in other videos, what's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary? A little extra. And that's the same thing that should go for your business and your benefits and your employees. If you want them to give extra, you've got to give extra. You've got to make it so that they understand and that they can be happy with what they're doing, because it's not just about a paycheck. Most people would take a lower pay for a better work environment than to take more pay for a worse work environment. So keep these things in mind as you're applying. And we're going to talk a lot about leadership and a lot about how you can be better at your job on the podcast. These are the tips that you need to know for employees and sick days, and that you can take care of your employees. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And we go live every Monday through Friday